Hey YouTube, on this show we are talking to Dalton Kreiss from Maguey Melate. They're a subscription service for artisanal mezcals, and it's stuff that you can't find anywhere else. So without any further ado, let's get into this week's show. And on this week's podcast we have Dalton. Hi Dalton.
How's it going, David?
It's great to have you here. Would you like to just introduce yourself to the listeners and the viewers, who you are, where you're from, and why you're on the podcast?
Yeah, my name's Dalton Kreiss. I'm currently in Oaxaca City in Mexico, where I live. I'm originally from Dubuque, Iowa, in the United States. And about 2 years ago, I started a company called Maguey Melate, and I think that's what we're going to talk about today.
Absolutely. And now, as I understand it, so I've got a little email in front of me that came through from you guys. So it's like a subscription box for artisanal mezcals, right?
Correct. I mean, we have two product lines, and we're starting to roll out a business product line, but our main focus and the main vision is this subscription club.
Awesome. And these subscription clubs are becoming pretty huge all over the place. I know there's a lot of like drinks by the drams, that kind of thing, with Scotch whiskey. There's the gin ones in the UK are absolutely huge. So what's the kind of format? Is it mini bottles? Is it full size bottles? How often are you sending them out? Just give us a bit of an overview of the service and also where you actually send to.
Sure. So the subscription, every other month we ship a box to someone's house, and that box contains two 375 milliliter bottles. So some people might call those half bottles. Each bottle represents 1 month, and there's a Mezcalero and a certain agave that month is featuring, and then the next month features a different Mezcalero and a different agave. Right now we're sending to the U.S., but we are looking to come to the U.K. and hopefully the European Union soon. So yeah, the big difficult part about our subscription, what's really unique about it, is it's what I call a synchronized subscription. So everybody that month is getting the exact same box, and they're going through the same social media experience and having the same discussions that result from some of those posts, and we're talking about the flavors and leaving reviews together. So it really has this sense of collective community where everybody has the same thing at the same time.
Cool. So that means like it's not where month one when you subscribe you'll get like your starter mezcals, month two you'll get this. It's everyone is getting that, so it's wherever you happen to jump on that train so that you're able to join in the discussion, right?
That's exactly right. And we originally started off with everybody would get box one, then everyone would get box two. But it just wasn't as exciting. It was much easier logistically. And then you can also have something called inventory waiting for people. You don't have to sell out. But the idea of everybody enjoying it at the same time and having a very exclusive limited batch, when you sell out of memberships, you're out. You have to close the sale. And we're, projecting our sales 3 months, 4 months in advance. So it's really tricky. How many members are we going to have in April 2020? That's what we're trying to figure out right now with our shipment. So, yeah.
Awesome. And so I'm guessing as well you're sourcing your mezcals from various different places, or is it Maguey Melate? Is that kind of the producer that you're shipping the boxes from?
So this is where our business model really became innovative, because the vision I had started when I visited these different Mezcaleros about 1.5 years ago, and I thought to feature them and their name and really champion them and make, their little tiny backyard distillery the featured producer. That was my vision. I didn't want to feature other brands and basically take a bottle off of this shelf, take a bottle off of this shelf, put it in a brown box and ship it to you. I would call that more of, yes, a club, but it's more of a shipping service. I wanted to go directly to the source, which turned out to be extremely challenging, and now I understand why it doesn't exist. So all of our bottles, they come in the Maguey Melate bottle, and the label on them is the name of that producer. So we like to try to think of ourselves not so much as a brand, but we're a logistical and sourcing company as well as a media company because we're creating all this digital content behind it. But the real people that make up our brand are all these individual producers. So when you look at the label, it's their name and their signature front and center. And so we're working with a network of independent producers that are welcome to work with other people, but it all goes into our bottle with our label.
That's awesome. So it's showcasing these tiny independent mezcal distilleries. That's amazing, because I mean, I used to work with Burrito Fiestero, which is a little party donkey, I think it means, and they were from the Durango area. So we were the importer into the UK I was working with. So it was a great little brand. But yeah, it's really cool, like seeing the way that their mezcalerias look. They're so tiny, you know. It's out in the middle of the desert, and yeah, absolutely fantastic. So in terms of these boxes that are coming out as well, you're putting some extra information in there about the different mezcalerias, or is it all digital content that comes out?
So what comes in the box is a tasting card, and it has a photo of the Mezcalero, and it has the QR code that takes you to the digital content. We create a Mezcalero page for each producer, and we put the quote, our favorite quote from the interview, with it. And then if you flip the card over, it's the other Mezcalero, and eventually we send you a binder, a really nice artisanal enclosure to keep these cards, so you can eventually collect all of these different cards and remember who was who and the quotes and access their webpage. But it also leaves you a space to write down your notes and give it a rating, which you can also do online once you do it on paper and pencil. But the main experience happens on our social media. We designate every post of our social media towards these mezcaleros and their stories. So we don't ever advertise any of our events we're having. We want to keep it really black and white. Our entire social media is about sharing their story. So throughout the month, about every other day, we're trickling out bits of the interview, some of the geeky knowledge behind the distillation, what was different about this process from the last one, some geeky knowledge about the biology of the plant and what makes this plant unique. And yeah, so most of the experience is online.
Oh, that's awesome. No, I've got an image in front of me, so that's the red card there. That's the little tasting card, right?
I can't see your image, but yes, our last card was red, and I'm sure that's it.
Perfect. And what was it that made you fall in love with mezcal over, like, there's so many different kinds of spirits out there. You know, why is it that you love mezcal over tequila, over raicilla, over all of those other kind of agave spirits, and then everything else that's out there?
Sure. It's a good question. I don't know if I've really, answered this question out loud before. Growing up, I was very into beer. I actually got a job with Anheuser-Busch that ultimately didn't work out for me, but that was what I was going to do coming out of college because I was quite passionate about beer. Studied in Germany for some time in college. And then, as my professional career in my young 20s developed, we had a bit of a fine whiskey culture. We were in the automation world, and everybody had, they would boast their most expensive or most rare bottle of whiskey in their office. And when we'd have clients come, I started to acquire a taste for sipping fine whiskey and really enjoyed it. And then thereafter, I moved to Germany to do my MBA for 2 years and fell back in love with beer and wine. Always a big wine guy. And my girlfriend, well, she wasn't my girlfriend at the time. She was visiting Europe, and she pulled a water bottle out of her suitcase. And she told me, this is the drink of the gods. This is what Oaxacan culture is all about. It's amazing, yada, yada, yada. And I took a little swig from the water bottle, and I have to be honest, I didn't totally get it. I didn't fully appreciate it. I was just like, okay, it has a little more character than vodka for sure, but I think I'll stick to my beer. And that's that. I didn't think about mezcal again for another year and a half. And then I got down to Oaxaca about a year and a half later and started to embrace the culture. And before we go out, we have a little mezcalito. While we're waiting for our dinner, we have a little mezcal. During the dinner, we have one after the dinner, one on the nightcap. So day after day, you just start to find mezcal in your life, and I think you really quickly acquire a taste if you like fine spirits. Especially me coming from whiskey, it was a very smooth transition for me. But I was not going to be another gringo that started a mezcal brand. Upon moving to Oaxaca, I refused to be doing that. So about a month into Oaxaca, I finally made it to my first palenque, a guy by the name of Conejo, or Antonio Martinez. And I met the Mezcalero, and we went out to his fields, and I was looking at these wild Karwinski plants, and they're towering over me, and I've never seen anything like this plant before. It's crazy how important agave is, but in Iowa and Germany, we don't even ever think of agave. Like, what is agave, you know? And then we saw the process, and he stuck his hand into the fermentation vat, and he said, no, it needs another day. And I'm just like, oh my God, this is incredible. I come from advanced automation where we build multi-million-dollar machines with 200 sensors on them and 2,000 IOs. So when he stuck his hand in and said, no, it needs another day, I was just like, I can really appreciate this because I come from the polar opposite background. And then we sat in his tasting room, and he had about 12 delicious mezcals. And I'm sitting there trying to figure out which one I'm going to buy or which 3 or 4 I'm going to buy, and really trying to taste the difference between each one. And it was this day on the Palenque, ending with that tasting experience and feeling a little bit of the magic of the mezcal, that I just like was in the middle of the country, and I said, I love mezcal, and I have to do something with this. I have to take what happened to me today, ending with tasting these different variations and trying to figure out which one to buy, and I need to somehow wrap this into a package and deliver it with all of its context to people. So it was that month of moving to Oaxaca, finalized with visiting that Palenque, where I just so incredibly enjoyed not just the mezcal as the spirit, but really all the context, history, the people, the plants behind it, as well as the differences in flavor of these different plants was incredible to me, that you didn't need to mix it with anything, and it was just so good. It had so much character, and there was so much to discover. Like, okay, these 12 were amazing. There's a couple thousand other mezcals out there. Let's go try all of them.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of sort of more kind of depth to mezcal than there is with tequila. It's like tequila is obviously only made from the blue agave, and then mezcal can be made of any of these agave that we have growing wild, and it's like saying, you know, if you've tried a Merlot, you've had every wine. Tequila is that kind of one varietal, and the differences in wines are obviously enormous, and the same with agave spirits as well. So it's a fascinating category, and it's one that hasn't really, although we've certainly got a huge range compared to what we used to have. You know, 10 years ago, you'd see a lot of Jose Cuervo Gold, and that was kind of all we would see in the UK. Now we've got ridiculous amounts of different tequilas and some great stuff over here. And one of the things that we mentioned on last week's podcast actually was that I know that we've got Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson starting his tequila brand, which is coming early next year, so that'll be exciting. Terramana, we'll see what happens with that. Is that anything? I mean, I don't know if it's something that even gets mentioned in Mexico. You know, are people aware that this sort of stuff's going on, or is it just like you take that and you enjoy it wherever you want, but we'll stick with the mezcal?
What do you mean exactly? That, you know, tequila and these other categories have a lot of growth, or can you restate the question, I guess?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, tequila outside of the US, I know tequila's always had quite a following in the US with margaritas and things like that, which have never been a massive thing outside of, I guess, the US. Certainly not in Europe. Tequila has always been kind of that shot spirit. It's not really become much of a cocktail thing until the past sort of, certainly the last 10 years, 5 years, really more in depth. And I just wondered if, does Mexico actually care, other than obviously it produces a lot more of it these days, I guess, and of higher quality stuff than when it was just the Jose Cuervos and that sort of thing coming out. But what are people actually drinking in Mexico? Is it mainly mezcal, or do they go for tequila? Do they go for mixto tequilas? Is it a bit of a mix of everything?
Yeah, I can certainly answer your point of view strictly from the Oaxaca state of perspective, because a lot of people say Oaxaca, in its southern position in Mexico, surrounded by the mountains, is kind of like a country by itself. It has a very indigenous culture. It's very cut off from the rest of Mexico. It doesn't have some of the dangers associated with the rest of Mexico. And it has just this incredible ecosystem that's unique here. So I can only speak from the Oaxaca state. And in Oaxaca, tequila is completely absent from the mind. We don't see it on a menu anywhere. Nobody ever would think to go to a bar and order a tequila. That is never ever. I've never seen it on a menu. Maybe if you go to like kind of a club, a bar, you might be able to get something, but I don't even know. Every menu is just a full list of mezcal, and now we're starting to see the emergence. Honestly, ever since I've been here, it's been more than started, the cocktail culture around mezcal, which didn't come from Oaxaca. That trickled down south from the States, especially the New York area. So we're seeing a lot of mezcal cocktails. Once in a while, I'll start off dinner with one of those, but I usually drink it straight, especially if it's a good mezcal. And then, a lot of us will order a water beer, a Corona or a Pacifico or a Superior to go with the mezcal. Unfortunately, Mexico, I definitely would not say is a great beer country. They drink a lot of beer, but it's all that commercialized beer. And once in a while, you'll find an artisanal beer on the menu, especially if it's a tourist place. But basically, you're drinking a water beer with a pure mezcal for sipping.
Nice. And I mean, you mentioned that there's a little bit of that cocktail culture coming down. Are there any standout cocktails? Like, what is it when you're having that pre-dinner drink? If you're going to have a cocktail with mezcal, what are you going for?
Oh, all the different bars have their different names to it. I like the things that are a little picante, a little bit spicy.
Okay.
I don't like the very sweet drinks, but every bar seems to label things differently with their own brand twist on it. But there's some really good cocktail bars down here that are opening up, and yeah, that's about as much as I can tell you.
That's amazing. No, it's really interesting that it's like the spicy cocktails always have worked well with mezcal. I know Employees Only, when we were in New York, the Ready Fire Aim has got some real heat to it, and like honeyed pineapple and things like that. Really, really interesting flavours with pink peppercorns as well, I think. Yeah. So where is the best place for people to find you and your brand online? Where should people aim for?
So we have our website, Maguey Melate, where you can really read about our vision and our mission and some of the sustainability things and long-term projects we're working on. So if you really want to get to know us as a company, our website at magueymelate.com is a great place. But our company, at the end of the day, is all about our Mezcaleros and showcasing them. We're just operating behind the scenes. And the best place to get to know them is certainly our Facebook and Instagram, Maguey Melate. And that's where you can really get to know not just the Mezcaleros, but what is artisanal mezcal. And whether you're a member or not, at the beginning, we put so much time and energy. It's half of our overhead to create this amazing content and really build out that story. And at the beginning, I was thinking this would be password protected content. You know, you'd have to be a member to get it, and that would be some of the selling point. But we really found that to be in complete contradiction to our mission to preserve and promote artisanal mezcal in a decentralized network of independent producers. So we wanted to make all of our content public. So member or not, if you're interested in artisanal mezcal and you want to really jump on the journey to slowly learn things in a very fun, digestible way, not just picking up a book and reading it cover to cover, but just kind of having it trickle into your daily life when you're scrolling, our social media is the perfect way to get to know mezcal. And it's not promotions. It's not about us. It's just all the things that are interesting behind each family and producer.
Yeah, that's amazing. We'll make sure we share links to all of the social media stuff as well as to the website. And I guess that kind of wraps up what I wanted to chat to you about. But are there any things that you'd like to point out that we've missed so far, or any kind of closing words?
I guess I would like to shine a little bit of attention on our mission project, and then also maybe get a plug out there. We're looking for a UK importer. We're looking for a key partner to bring our subscription to the UK, and we just need that person that can really bring stuff in and distribute it. So if anyone in your audience has a connection for us and would love to see this club come to the UK, please reach out to us on our website. And as far as the mission project, the big project behind this business model and how we're making money for it is to sustain all these independent producers and give them some economic means to fight against the consolidation that's happening. Anytime money enters a category, you see a lot of consolidation and scaling up in factories and industrial mezcal, as we call it. And that's everything that we're against, and we're trying to preserve these social economical little communities, their artisanal way of making it, and families that are independent of foreigners and independent of corporations that own their own business and grow their own agaves. But how we're doing that is every mezcalero that we feature, we actually publish their GPS, a map with their location, their telephone number, which agaves they grow and which agaves we recommend and which agaves they have on hand. We have all the interview and information. And our hope in stage one is that we can connect these mezcaleros directly with mezcalerias in the UK, mezcalerias in the US, mezcalerias in Oaxaca, tourists that are coming down and they want to go visit some of these guys and directly support them. And other importers and brands can easily find them. So we hope by making them a little more accessible, it's just going to bring more and more people to them. And so we're creating the Mezcaleropedia. Right now it's just an index, but at the end of the day it will be like a very interactive map, almost like an Airbnb, where you can see the different regions, click on it, meet that mezcalero, and be like, we should get this guy in our mezcaleria. So that's the project. So every month we produce one more web page with one more web content. And of course, these are just outstanding mezcaleros. So any bar would be winning to choose one of them.
That sounds amazing. Well, thank you so much. It's been great to chat to you. And guys, let's say thanks to Dalton for joining us on this show.
Thank you, David. Thanks for having me.
Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed that interview. Thank you for joining us, and I can't express enough how much you guys need to go and check this out. There's some great stories over there, even if you're not into drinking mezcals at the moment. Just knowing some of these stories from the Mezcaleros is very, very interesting. So go and check that out. And also, now I've not said this for a really long time, but if you've got any value from Bartender HQ, if you enjoy the shows, hit subscribe and give us a share with your friends. If it's something that you think any of your other bartender friends would enjoy, then please let them know. See you on next week's show.